Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive. Today, we're going way back to the very beginnings of Christianity.
Yeah, things were a little different back then. We're talking about a time when just saying you believed in Jesus could get you in some serious trouble.
Absolutely. And we're going to look at a passage from Romans that really gets to the heart of what it meant to be a Christian in that kind of world. Romans 10, verses 9 through 13.
Powerful stuff.
Really is. So, paint us a picture. What was it like for these early Christians? The source we're looking at this week talks about some pretty intense persecution.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, imagine you've got the Roman Empire breathing down your neck telling you to worship Caesar.
Right. And then you have Jewish leaders who basically see you as, like, a traitor to your own people.
Exactly. Talk about a tough crowd. And that's what makes this passage so incredible. It's talking about the power of confession and belief in the midst of all of that.
So, okay, confession. It says you have to believe with your heart, AD, confess with your mouth. What does that actually mean? I mean, is it enough to just believe in your head?
Well, that's where things get interesting. The source we're looking at dives into the different ways people understood confession back then.
Oh, there were different interpretations.
For sure. For some, it meant making a bold public declaration of your faith. You know, really standing up and being counted.
Like shouting it from the rooftops.
Yeah, kind of like that. But for others, it was more about living a life that was consistent with your beliefs. You know, putting your faith into action.
So not just saying the words, but actually living them out.
Exactly. But the key takeaway, no matter how they interpreted it, was that true belief naturally leads to outward expression. You can't keep it bottled up inside.
Right, like that line from Matthew. Out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. Something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, if you truly believe something, it's going to come out one way or another.
Yeah.
Whether it's through your words or your actions.
Okay, so let's bring this back to the early Christians. How did they express their belief in such a hostile world?
Well, it could take many forms. It could mean helping the poor and the sick. Or standing up for what's right, even when it was dangerous.
Right, or even something as simple as refusing to participate in pagan rituals.
Yeah, absolutely. All of these things were ways of saying, this is what I believe in, and I'm not going to back down, even when the pressure was intense.
And what's amazing is that the source points out that this passage also talks about the universality of salvation. It wasn't limited to just a select few.
Absolutely. This was radical for the time. I mean, think about it. Back then, the world was so divided by ethnicity and social status.
Right.
But the early Christians were saying, nope, God's grace is available to everyone, regardless of who you are or where you come from.
Whoa, that's a powerful message. And probably pretty controversial, too.
Totally. They were basically challenging the entire social order with this message of radical inclusivity. And that's what makes this passage so relevant today.
You think so?
Well, it reminds us that true faith isn't passive. It's about living our beliefs courageously, even when it's difficult.
So how does that apply to us today? I mean, are we supposed to go around making these big public declarations of our faith?
It's not necessarily about some grand gesture. It's more about asking ourselves, how are we living out our faith in the everyday? Are we willing to stand up for what we believe in, even when it's unpopular? Are we extending that same radical inclusivity to others, just like the early Christians did?
Yeah. Wow. That's a big question, isn't it?
It is, but it's a question worth wrestling with.
Definitely. And it makes you think about all the little ways, the everyday choices that we make that either reflect our beliefs or contradict them.
Absolutely. That's what makes this passage so timeless. It's not just some ancient history lesson. It's a call to live authentically and courageously, just like those early believers did.
All right, so we've gone deep on confession and belief in a time when it really could cost you everything. And we've talked about how that same spirit of bold faith can still inspire us today. But here's a final thought for you to ponder. If those early Christians faced real consequences for their beliefs, what does that mean for us in a world where faith is often seen as a private matter? Is there still a cost to discipleship today? What do you think? We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you want to explore this topic further, check out the full written devotional. The link is in the show notes. Until next time, keep diving deep.